Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 6. We'll discuss about what is biodiversity. We can understand that biodiversity is a variation of nature in natural system. Besides, biodiversity also can understand as plant, animal, and microorganism. It is study about genetic and type of species in this creature. It is also about the way they live and what kind of ecosystem they are. Earth has been existent for billion years ago. Biodiversity we see nowadays is not same with 100 million years ago. It is because there are evolution occur from times to times. Besides, it is also due to natural process and interface of people. In this world, we are not only one who live in this world. There are plants and animals which we are depends on to continue our life. For example, we have to eat meat and vegetables to keep alive. There are millions of species has been found in this world, especially small creatures like insects. Scientists and experts do believe there are many more species that they are not discovered yet. Biodiversity also understanding about differences in genetic in each species. Basically, there are three major levels of biodiversity. First is genetic diversity, second is species diversity, and third is ecosystem diversity.
Now, I will explain further about the definition of biological diversity. Biodiversity is a modern combination term of biological diversity. Cambridge Dictionary defines diversity as the condition or fact of being different or variety. In simple words, we can understand that biodiversity refers to the variety of organisms such as plants, animals, and other organisms in a particular area or ecosystems. Over decades, many authors and researchers suggested various explanations and details for the definitions of biodiversity. Based on the terms from which it was derived, the concept of biodiversity is easily accomplished with regard to the prefix bio, since there tends to be widespread agreement on the interpretation of bio or biotic or biological. Bio was derived from the Greek word bios, which means life. In the context of components of the systems which are called biological, the scope of the word biological can be better understood as biological and biotic are terms that refer to life, living organism, living organism assemblies, living organism activities and interactions. And it is no longer considered biological when the organism dies, because it is considered to be an abiotic or non-living element of the environment at this process. Thus, we can see that it is more difficult to define the base word for biological, because it continues to be defined in several different ways. Next, Geyer and Richard 1996 stated that the concept of biodiversity refers to the variation of life, specifically for the number of species, genetic variation, or the range of ecosystems in which species or genes can be found, similar to what have been proposed by Hayward and Betts, that biodiversity consists of three main types, which is ecological diversity, genetic diversity, and organismal diversity. Genetic heterogeneity or diversity may result from gene recombination or mutation, genetic polymorphism, gene isolation, local selection pressures, complexity of habitat, landscape mosaics, and environmental gradients among individuals within a species. According to Ferrer 2002, organismal diversity is the number or variety of different species in a particular area or community, while ecological diversity refers to the variety of different ecosystems or habitats within an area. Thus, we can conclude that organismal diversity explains about diversity at medium level, while ecological diversity explains about biodiversity at large level. Therefore, it is clearly shown that many researchers and authors have argued about definitions or concepts of biodiversity. Hence, according to the Convention on Biological Diversity at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in 1992, biodiversity can be described as variability between living organisms from all sources, including inter-areal, marine, terrestrial, and other aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complex that make up the area, including variety within species, variety between species, and variety of ecosystem.
Assalamualaikum and hi, I am Nariza Alwani. So I will continue our group presentation this evening with the next point, which is factor that increase biological diversity. So there are a few factors that are affecting the increase and decrease in biological diversity. The decreasing factor is seen to have more than the increasing factor, but there is also an increasing factor in biological diversity. There are several factors that cause an increase in biological diversity, and one of it is the richness of species. The first factor that can increase biological diversity is by using a preservation and conservation approach. Such an approach can be used, for example, in national parks, where for reservation approaches, national parks can prevent human activities except for tourism activities. According to William Adams, through this approach, direct use of natural resources in the park for commercial or subsistence purposes is prohibited. This type of approach is often referred as the protectionism approach or the finance and fences approach. The preservation approach was the most dominant approach until 1980s, but in some national parks, it has now substituted by the second approach called the community-based conservation approach that allows people to benefit socially or economically from the parks. The community-based conservation approach was proposed to address the problem associated with excluding human activities from the park. The community-based conservation approach also involved initiatives aimed at conserving biodiversity in the park, but also letting local people benefit from the park. So from these two approaches, we know that biological diversity can be well maintained. Next, the other factor that can increase biological diversity is the richness of species. Species richness represents a measure of the variety of species based simply on a count of the number of species in a particular sample. Research to date has focused primarily on the importance of species richness, which an aspect of biodiversity that has long been thought to influence ecosystem functioning by Tillman 1999. Positive relationships between species richness and ecosystem functioning have been found across large regional scales. Thus, it is not well known if initial or short-term effects are transient or persistent over time, since changing species composition resource level over time may affect competitive interactions between a species, leading to increased importance of other mechanisms affecting function differently. Even positive trends have been observed in multiple time series, likely as a result of global change leading to favorable conditions for multiple species, whereas negative trends occurred only in subsets with distinct negative human impacts. It is according to Ilahai et AL 2015. Other than that, moderate amounts of disturbance is also one of the factors that increase biological diversity. From a historical perspective, disturbance has long been present in ecological theory, and understanding disturbance effects on species diversity and functional diversity is fundamental to conservation planning. Disturbances are often viewed as essential for maintaining biodiversity. Petraitis, 1989, Hobbs and Hunick, 1992. In both terrestrial and marine ecosystems, the spatial scale of natural disturbance, which is known to span about 10 orders of magnitudes, is important. For example, a drought that might devastate protozoans in a temporary pond would be inconsequential to an elephant. Within a given landscape or ecosystem, spatial and biological disturbance can create a mosaic of habitat patches separated by varying distances. Periodic disturbance, however, prevented taxonomic dominance and eliminated this indirect effect of suspension feeders species richness on stream productivity. The results suggest that disturbance can moderate relationship between biodiversity and ecosystem functioning by increasing the chance that diversity generates unique system properties or suppressing the probability of ecological process during being controlled by a single taxon. So that is all from me, and we will move to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Ani Zulaika, and I'm going to discuss about the preservation effort. First of all, environment is very important to the living thing and must be preserved. Preservation is when the climate, land, and natural resources are put away, not to be used by human, but it can only be used for its natural beauty and inspiration. Humans' roles are very important to preserve the ecosystem. One of the important things to keep preserving the environment is that it helps to improve the productivity of the ecosystem. For example, a properly working ecosystem would be more immune to the extreme environmental factors such as climate change. When a large quantities of fully grown trees are deforested in a region, these trees have a lot of protection against erosion of the soil, and the rich topsoil is frequently swept away in hurricane and washed away in the torrential rains until it removed. So in addition, if we do deforestation, habitat loss and degradation will damage the food web, messing up the whole ecosystem in the general. So we must take a preservation effort to help keep the environmental pristine. The first effective ways to preserve the environment is the human effort to practice recycling. Recycling refers when the raw materials or waste material that has been used are taken and turn them into a new functional item. Recycling is very important because it helps preserve the environment and also reduce the pollution, such as land pollution. The need for raw material is reduced when we recycling, which helps preserve the rainforest. Recycling can be done in many ways, either from the factory or done by ourselves at home. For example, recycled paper can contribute to the production of paper without more paper can be used by recycling more paper and selling it to the customer without further destroying the forest than its current rate of threefolds. So when we recycling, the waste products are reduced, and then we can keep the environment natural pristine. The second ways of preserving the environment are the role of zoo. National Geographic Encyclopedia 2019 defines zoo as a place where animals live in captivity and are shown for people to see. Zoo can also be defined as a collection of captured wild animals that are presented to the public in such a way that they are easier to observe than in the nature. Basically, the word zoo is the short from the word zoological park. Zoo have a very important rules because they can keep and preserve endangered animal to prevent them from being extinct in the future, which can be classified as an ex situ conservation. Ex situ conservation is the activities include genetic management and captive breeding of endangered species, education and also research. They also provided with biologists and also veterinarian for sick and wounded animals. According to National Geography Encyclopedia 2019 also, zoo researchers will study the animal up close and they will observe the behavior such as mating and their nutritional choices. Okay, last but not least, government play an important role in increasing the public awareness on the importance of preserving the environment. The government must put a lot of efforts to educate the public on this issue because there are still many people who are unaware about their roles in keeping and preserving the environment. Um, One of the Malaysian government effort to help increase the awareness is charging 20 cents for every purchase of plastic in every shopping mall. Other than that, government can also legislate a new rules and tighten the enforcement so that the public will be more aware and they will increase their awareness. Um, Other than government efforts, a person itself, we must you must have a self awareness. But but there are some people who might feel that recycling is necessary for a long term good of society. But there are also some people that feel that it is inconvenient. So this can be a positive and negative view of this socially aware practice, which may be affected by the individual personal belief and value orientation. But we as a human, we must feel responsible to protect our environment and keep it clean. Planting tree is one of the way that an individual can do to preserve the environment. The less effective way of preserving the environment are by reduce the amount of energy emission in the air. Air pollution is the main problem that occur in almost every country, especially in China, Indonesia and also India. We heard about this news almost every year. Human activities are the major contributors to the air pollution. For example, fuel combustion from vehicles and also industrial sources. To help reduce the amount of energy emitted in the air, there are various strategies that can be practiced. For example, we can use public transportation such as train, or we can also carpooling to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide released in the air. Um, Other than that, we can also use energy efficient light bulb or other home appliance that can save energy and also buy fewer products that are made from fossil fuels.
In conclusion, we as humans is interdependent to work nature around us to survive. Biodiversity contains living things such as human, plant, animal and microorganism, which is form an ecosystem. Besides, human research also gives benefit to diversity such as richness in species. For example, developing country which are moving towards the developed country has to plan their development carefully because the development is affecting landscape change. Lastly, human is the main role biodiversity. Every action take can bring to positive and negative impact to environment. To conserve our diversity, we should practice 3R, which is reuse, reduce and recycle. That's all from us. Thank you.